know that I start off shows talking about how I'm excited, but this Cherie's World podcast means more to me than most. And let me explain why briefly. I got to give this lady her flowers before I even introduce who she is. She has been my sister. I'm not going to tell you for how long because that's going to tell our age and it's definitely going to date us. But we go back to school together. Okay. And so many women know that the people who do our hairstylists, are much like our therapists. So this sister has been my confidant, my friend. She is definitely my sister from another mister. Her daddy actually claims me and my mama claims her. So you take it how you want to, but we definitely fam and we're stuck forever. Melanie Luja is here. Melanie is the woman that you guys have been asking me about for years that I affectionately call Magical Mel. Is the one who did my hair in the good years of Family Matters. But besides from the good years, Melanie is also a soul work practitioner, which I told y'all came early because she's been working my soul since a teenager. She is a life purpose coach. She's an educator, an author. She's an award-winning poet, but most important, she's a homeschool mom. And she's here today because she has a new book out. We will talk about her others, but first we are going to get this one. And it is called In the Kitchen with Melanie for the Amateur Herbalist.
The only podcast coming through your beat stereo is Cherie's World, so let's go around like a merry-go. Plug your phone in, make sure it got a full battery. Download it Wednesday, listen to it Saturday. She cover all topics, whatever you after. She got ball players, authors, doctors, actors, rappers, singers, entrepreneurs, divas, leaders. Androids or Apple, turn up your speakers. Trying to shoot my shot like the vaccine, whether it's Cherie or Maxine, whether the podcast or acting, she that queen. PYT, you know what that mean. Saw you on TV and touched the screen, touch on you. I plead Lucy's got a crush on you. It'll mean the world to get a blush from you. Teaspoon of me, leave you sleep like Robitussin do.
Hey, boo.
Hey.
Thank you so much for being here with me today.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Are you kidding? I am super duper excited to finally get you on camera and on the microphone.
Right. We've been saying it for a long time, but I think because we're so close, we forget that we didn't do it.
No, absolutely. And what I want to say today is I just want to put out a disclaimer. We are not saying that we can cure or fix you, but we can aid you, and Melanie can aid you with anything that you have going on. Melanie's sole purpose has been working from their inside out, mind, body, and spirit. Also, hair, skin, and nails.
That part. So, that's the reason why I wrote the book, is because people needed to know that as a healer, I'm not your healer. You heal yourself. Right. And so a lot of times with the work that we do, we notice that people deal with their healing from the diagnostic perspective. Right. Mm-hmm. So what we do, we make sure that we don't give you a diagnosis. We tell you what your deficiencies are, and then we show you how to fill those deficiencies with your food. And that way you can kind of get an idea of what it's like to identify your full potentiality, as opposed to saying, oh, I have this ailment and, I need to take this medicine to make it go away.
Right. Okay. So I'm a certified nutritionist. I only know about food and how to aid you with certain issues. Melanie is a step further. Melanie, can you tell us about the degree that you just got?
So I have a degree in holistic health science and then integrative medicine. So, and natural medicine. So with that, one of the modalities that we offer is we can take 4 follicles of your hair, put them into our device, and in 15 minutes, you can get a 37-page report back of what systems of your body are off, what deficiencies are causing them to be off, and then a whole meal plan to tell you how to fill those deficiencies in your food.
Hold up, because I ain't know this. I'm about to send you some here. If somebody does want to send you some of their hair, how would they go about doing it?
Well, so there's a 2-step process. One is I would prefer to be there with them, because what happens is that because the hair follicle is your DNA, right? And the DNA changes with your environment. So you have 3 minutes to get a really good reading of the last 90 days of your life in order to move forward for the next 90 days, right? Because our cells change every 90 days. So that's one way to do it. The other way is a mail-in kit, which is set up a little differently, but it takes you about 2 to 3 weeks to get your information back. And then we do a Zoom call, and then we're able to read your report with you so that you can completely understand it.
See, y'all, I done known this girl my whole life, and I'm still that she knows Davy. I literally did not know this, but I'm ready to get on a plane so that you can check my hair out. While we're talking about that, let's talk really quickly about natural and
Okay.
what the difference of natural is, because I look at some labels in the store. Some
Mhm.
say natural, but then when I read some stuff, I can't pronounce it.
Yes.
S-
You know what? A lot of times when you can't pronounce it, one of the things that people don't know is one of the ways to be able to tell if your herbs are actually really natural herbs, because there's a lot of artificial things out there. Most times it's not going to be in English. It's going to be in Spanish, right? So a lot of times when you can't pronounce the herbs, it's probably because it's another language. So let's say, for instance, St. John's wort. That's one that is very common for depression. But then there's another name for it that is pronounced like saladine, right? And so if you're looking for St. John's wort, you're not going to find it because you should be looking for the Latin or the Spanish name for it.
I want to talk about our community, right? Because I found
Mhm.
some things very interesting when I was going through your product list that you have in here of things that
Uh-huh.
in our kitchens that affect my family. And those are things like high cholesterol, diabetes, autoimmune disorder. Can we
Yes.
touch on some of that that's right in our kitchen?
Yes. So, one of the things that I've noticed is that a lot of people eat a lot of healthy things. It's just that they add the other stuff with it, right? So when we go into our kitchens, we'll be able to see that we have what we need. We just need to take away some of the other stuff. So we might use ginger and turmeric and black pepper, but we put it on beef. Right. So, but if you just made a tea out of it, then maybe you'll be combating a lot of issues, because it's very simple to just make slight adjustments with let's say cinnamon, for example. Cinnamon is really good for high blood pressure and things like that, but when we put in cinnamon with sugar, that's what creates the high blood pressure. So we have these counter indicators that we use sometimes, that if we just are mindful of using things in its purest form. I like to use the example of how sweet vegetables are.
Mhm.
People don't realize how sweet they are because we're so used to having them in a savory way. But if we take away the salt and pepper, guess what? You actually have a fruit.
I want to talk about one of those vegetables. It's like a fruit that I did not grow up eating. I have never been to one of my Black friends, Mexican friends, or Hispanic friends' homes where somebody
Mhm.
said, let's have beets for dinner.
Mm.
Okay. And when I was flipping through the book and I saw them, I bust out laughing because within the last 5 years of my life, and the more I'm learning about nutrition, I have incorporated beets into my diet, but it's not something that I grew up eating. And one thing that I don't believe
Right.
in is that things like predisposed disorders are genetic. I think what
Right.
I think what happens is we all eat the same things. So we
Hmm.
all accumulate the same disorders and diseases.
Right. I'm glad you said that, because the thing that I described earlier that we do with identifying deficiencies, it's called epigenetics, meaning that we can overwrite the gene. And basically, we overwrite the gene by eating certain fruit and vegetables to fill those deficiencies that we have. The problem that we have in our communities is that not only are we eating the same things, but we're eating them at the wrong time of the year sometimes. And then because we don't want to cook in variety, we make one dish and we want the whole family to eat it, when this person might have a body system that's off right now. Like, say, for instance, you have circulatory system off, and then your mom has adrenals off. If you're eating the same foods, then nobody's issues are being addressed.
I
So
like that you said that. In the book, I noticed that you give us seasonal fruits and seasonal
mhm,
vegetables and what
yes.
to eat, when, and how.
Right. And according to the blood type. So we have that big conversation because for a long time I have to admit myself that I was like everybody should be vegan or vegetarian because it allows the body to digest the food easier and things like that. But when really doing some in-depth research, I realized that certain blood types, when you are working out actively, you need that protein that you can only get from animals. And then there's that protein that you get from plants. So to be able to create a really good balance between the two with certain blood types actually benefits them more than not.
I love the fact that you said that because as a nutritionist, I do nutritional consultations on the weekend. And the big thing that I hear from men all the time is, I need my protein, I need my protein, I need my protein. And I actually try to get them to detox for a minute. And I'm like, well, you can
Yes.
get protein from vegetables. A lot of
Yes.
people don't know that.
Yeah, a lot of people don't realize that you can eat a lot of good foods, but if you don't push out the old stuff in your system, you're eating a lot of good foods that are going to give you energy for a moment versus giving you energy for an extended period of time. So, with our clients, we always recommend to cleanse the body first, give it a chance to reset itself so that the new stuff that you're putting into it can actually assimilate properly.
I love that you've said eliminate, right? Because women after our 30s, we don't eliminate the way we used to. And all of a
Right.
sudden now I'm seeing probiotic this, probiotic that. And I never really heard of probiotics growing up.
Hmm.
Again, going through this book, I didn't realize how many things you were teaching me have probiotics in it right here in my kitchen.
Right. A lot of times we don't realize that pectin foods, that you know how back in the day they used to say an apple a day keeps the doctor away? That's
Yes.
because apples are a pectin food, and that helps to do what a probiotic would do in the system. So it gets the fungus, the parasites, and the bacteria out of the system. The beautiful thing about pectin foods is that it's not going to kill all the bacteria because we need some bacteria in there because it's some good bacteria, right? So if we learn to like create a balance, I think that's the biggest thing with people is that they don't believe in balance. Like they find something healthy and they eat it all the time.
Hmm.
And then they wonder why. Like for me, for example, my family's from New Orleans. So I love red beans. When my report came back and said, stay away from red beans for 90 days, I was like, well, what am I supposed to eat? And then I was like, okay, well, then I'll incorporate lentils, you know?
I'm laughing because last night we had red beans and
Right. Hey, we used to create good meals when we didn't have any food in the cabinet.
right. And that's why I'm laughing because we grow up, and even me, you know what I'm saying? I preach the nutritionist thing, but I still grow up eating a lot that I ate, my whole life. And but I'm
Yes.
looking at my mother and I'm looking at my grandmother, who both have had multiple heart attacks, not in
Mm,
normal amounts. And I don't want that
yes.
for my future. So when I was
Right.
looking beets, it helps you maintain strong bones. It lowers blood pressure, y'all. How many black people eating beets? Like for real?
Look at the shape of the beet. Don't it look like a heart?
It sure does.
You see? So when we start to eat our foods, we can eat them according to which organ needs to be addressed. And
And then,
so, but
okay, so
look at the caution.
I got to get a little bit messy right now, right? Because it
Okay.
also says it assists in the production of sex hormones. So what does this mean? Does this mean that it's going to maintain my hormones while I'm going through premenopause, or does this mean that it's going to help me get wet? Like what does that mean?
So the libido is
Uh,
one of the things that after a certain age, a lot of women have to address. See, a lot of people don't realize that in other cultures, when they have multiple wives, they don't have multiple wives just so they can go and have sex with everybody. They have multiple wives because a woman's libido lowers at a certain age. And usually that's the time where the man's libido increases, right? And then we balance back out. But if we eat the right foods, it keeps our libido in balance, right? So you know, a lot of times, you know, especially after you have children, like you don't want nobody to touch you,
Yeah, I had years.
you know. But just think, if the beet could increase your circulation.
Mhm.
Usually the reason why a woman does not want it at a particular time is because the circulation is now starting to adjust itself in a way that it didn't before. And so we want to make sure that our circulation is, you know, intact so that we can get the right amount of blood to our hearts, our livers, our kidneys, and, you know, every other organ in the body. And then we become a natural again.
I love it. And this book talks about everything, you guys. She talks about premenopause, menopause, and perimenopause, and things that can help you go through that. I wanted to ask you later, but I guess I'll ask you on air since you're here.
Yes, ma'am.
I have a menopause meal plan that I do with women
Mm,
in the midst of it. I would like to do some sort of workshop next year with women because we really fully don't understand our bodies.
right.
So when I won't say if, I was about to say if, but O taught me not to say that. O is her husband. When I get a group of women together, I would love for you to
Yes.
come in and speak with them. Is that something we can arrange?
Absolutely. We actually do it all the time.
You do?
So, you know, our friend, so the book that we wrote, Internal Balance, Would You Marry You? It was written because women were getting their friends together in groups saying, let's get ourselves back into balance. And so we would do these workshops. And then after we do the workshops, people would say, well, do you have any material for us to take home with us? And we were like, you know what? We need to write a book or something so that people could be able to do this work on their own. So basically, that's why that book was even brought into existence.
Okay, so I was going to talk about it later, but let's talk about it real quick now since you brought it up. I'm a huge fan of internal balance. Would you marry you? And a lot of people don't know that I've had some soul work done and some counseling, and it was actually done by Melanie's husband, O'Shea. So I would love for you guys to come back on one day together and maybe we can
Yes.
discuss this. But I think if there are, this is not for single people, this is also for married people. There's so much that I didn't know about myself. I had no idea that there was like love languages until I sat down with O and they asked me, would you marry you? And my answer was no.
Hmm. You know, you actually hosted the book signing, remember? The
Yes, I
very first book signing for that book,
yes.
the release. Yes.
And the reason
And, you know,
I was gonna say,
go
I'm
ahead.
sorry, not to cut you off. The reason why I hosted it was because I had so many questions.
Hmm. Yes. But too, a lot of time, you know, we pose that question because people want something, right? They desire it, but they might be using a right word with the wrong definition.
Mm,
So basically, what happens is that people, you might, for example, just a simple example, people might say, "Oh, a woman might say, I want a good man."
mhm.
But their definition of a good man is different than another person's definition of a good man. So they get a good man, but because they never had one before, they don't realize it. They don't know what to do with a good man. They haven't become a good woman for that good man yet. So
Absolutely.
we attract who we are. So when we get a mate that is not what we thought they were going to be, then usually that means that I'm not what I thought I was.
And I'm laughing because Melanie knows every person that I've ever dated in my life.
But Cherie, we have to give you some credit because sometimes you know that you're in a point in your life where you're not looking for particular things. You
Oh
know
yeah,
exactly what you're looking for and you attract that. And then when you're finished, you're finished.
I was
And
the
that's
fun,
okay too.
I was the fun girl. I wanted fun.
But you also have that Scorpio in you that needs that, you know, that
Absolutely.
security at times. But because we grow up in a society where we've been taught to be independent women, we don't realize that sometimes we push things that we really desire away from us because we're trying to prove a point. We're trying to prove society right. When in fact, we have both been through it. And now we've gotten to the point where none of that matters. I know exactly who I am and what I desire now.
Absolutely. Coming to that of me being the fun girl, I waited to have a baby and I did it later on in life. And Melanie
Yes.
knows I've been very like clear and honest with most of you. I was going through premenopause. So I had some infertility issues where I tried to get pregnant for a year and a half and it wasn't working. Sat down, had a conversation with my friend who gives some jewels this in this book, and what do you know? Boom, I'm pregnant. So can we talk about that?
Yes, actually, what's interesting, Cherry, that I can say for both of us is that we spent so much time taking care of other people and other people's children that I think we put our minds in a place where our bodies responded like, okay, I'm gonna wait because you are doing so much other stuff. And then, like we both know we're the same age. We got pregnant at the same time.
The
you
same
know
exact time.
Yes. And the beautiful thing about it was that we were in the middle of starting the Wild Cherry line. So the greatness in how the universe works and how the universe responds to you and give you exactly what you want, neither one of us could stand the smell of certain things. So it was like, you know what? It's okay to put this on pause until this part of the pregnancy goes away and then we can restart. And it was just easy. Like everything with us has been so easy when it comes to moving forward with new ventures.
That is so true. And
But
there's going to be a lot of ventures with us coming
yeah.
next year.
Yeah. So, but too, a lot of times when our hormones are off,
Mhm.
the medical industry calls it what they want to call it, right? Instead of just saying, oh, okay, you have a hormonal imbalance, they'll call it premenopause, right? And so it's really just a matter of doing what you did. You were smart enough to go and get a certified as a nutritionist
Yes, but
and
that
then
was
say,
after I went and got my blood work done. And I've been
mhm,
honest with everybody. I called Melanie. I thought maybe I had HIV. And because I Googled all my symptoms, and like I said, I was the fun girl. So I went and got my blood work, and my doctor did not call me back like I wanted him to. And within those 10 days, I had already sought counseling through my homegirl. I thought I was out of here because they didn't have the knowledge that they have now about HIV and AIDS. I didn't have any of that. Don't have HIV,
yes,
don't have AIDS. But what I did have is a low estrogen level.
right. And two, you were testing every 6 months.
Yes.
I remember that you would call every 6 months and say, "He came back negative again. He came back negative again." It's like we knew it was going to come back negative, But our minds, our minds are so strong. If we think something, the mind is so powerful that the body starts to respond the way the mind is thinking, whether it's true or not. So
Magic
it's
Johnson was on billboards everywhere.
yes. It's like when you buy a new car and you've never seen it on the road before, and then all of a sudden you see the same color, the same year, the same model, everything.
Yes. And I was like, and I didn't want to go and tell everybody because all your friends ain't your friends, but Melanie is my real friend. And so, like
Yes.
I said, she does soul work. She's been doing my soul work since I was about 15 in her mama's
Hey,
kitchen every Saturday.
okay. The balance though.
Seriously. So it's this
So what people probably don't know is that when you would sit and get your hair done, you would face me, where most people would have their back to me. And she like, I want to read your lips. I want to hear everything.
well, okay, so I was working like Monday through Friday. I was doing 8 to 12 hour days. And so I didn't get to see her. We didn't have cell phones and stuff like that then. So I soaked up every moment that I had with her. And she's always been like, I want to say like my sensei. We all have those friends who are very grounded. One is
Yes.
stable, one is grounded, one has all the good advice. And then you have the friend who listens to all the advice and takes none of it because she just wants to do whatever's fun and whatever's right now and working. And so when I got in her presence, I needed all of her energy.
But Cherry, for years you were the balance for me because, sometimes a lot we get so grounded that we forget to release the emotions that are no longer serving us. And so if I would tell you something, you would release the emotion that was no longer serving me.
Oh,
So whenever I needed that release, you would do it all for me and I would be healed, just by you cussing somebody out for me.
quick.
Yeah. So hey, there's balance.
And that's amazing. And you know what? So you have a thing on here that says immune relief, right? I remember coming
Mhm.
to her house one Friday, and this was her mother's house. We were kids. I came to your mother's house. It wasn't Friday, it was Thursday evening, because Mel would open up her door for me at 9 o'clock at night and do my hair.
You the only one my mama would let me do that for.
And it was because I had to work the next day, and her mama didn't want me on TV looking raggedy.
Right.
But I have vocal cord issues and immune issues, and you have something in here called immune relief. And then I was
Yes.
reading it, and I remember you going in the kitchen and telling me, drink this. And through November to January, you always gave it to me when you did my hair. And I think that's what
Mhm.
got me through the shows without being sick.
Hmm.
Do you even
Yeah,
remember that?
yes, I remember I I think I didn't know that I was practicing herbalism when I was doing it initially, because it's very interesting. I have to tap into someone's energy field, and the energy of that person tells me what they need. It's not me. Like, there's nothing special about me that says, oh girl, you can do this, this, and that. It's something special about the individual. And then we share in that energy. And when we share in that energy, we can say, okay, this is the feeling that is to be desired, and these are the things that are going to help us achieve that. And
Wow.
so more than likely, because the immune relief actually, it was formulated. No, it came about, but it wasn't fully formulated yet. Now we have a formula for it. So it came about because we were experiencing a lot of women who were having extended menstrual cycles. And so people don't realize that the reproductive system and the whole vagina could have a cold. And so people don't realize when they're on their cycle and there's clotting, it's almost like when you blow your nose and you have mucus, your vagina is blowing out the mucus the same way. So that's why it's called immune relief, because it's relieving the immunity of the reproductive system just as much as it is, in our sinus tracts and things like that.
Wow. Look, I'm over here smiling because I'm one of those women who have horrible menstrual cycles. That comes
Hmm.
along with the whole premenopause, all that stuff. And while we're on our productive organs, can we talk about something that plagues our community so much? Every other client that I have that's a Black woman has an issue with her fibroids.
Yes. Cherry, I think that what you said about this workshop that you want to do is vital because of that issue right there. A lot of times women don't realize that fibroids are energy stored up from past relationships that haven't been let go of yet. And I know that that's not the one thing that people want to hear, because they think that, oh no, I'm over him. But they don't realize that when you have intercourse with somebody and there's an exchange of fluids,
Mhm.
those fluids sometimes sit in your body for almost 10 years, just like meat and different things that we put into our body. So when we start thinking about how we force ourselves to get over a relationship as opposed to doing the internal work to get past the relationship, we store that memory inside of us, and it shows up as a fibroids often.
That's a well, no wonder I ain't never had no fibroid, thank God, because I don't have I get over them. Do you
Right.
know? This is off the book, but onto your soul work. What is it about women where some do harbor those feelings, and then there's others like me who can just be like, you know what? I guess that wasn't it. It was for a
Yeah,
time.
well, your life path number, you're 9, right?
Mhm.
So you don't always vibrate in the physical. Nines vibrate outside of the physical self. And if we could get more people to vibrate in the bliss body where we're able to say, okay, I'm not attached. Because think about a fibroid is an attachment. You
Mm.
know, it's really like people get afraid when they say cancer, right? Oh, you have cancer. But just think, if you hold on to a fibroid long enough, it hardens. And then the way that it hardens, it can show up as a tumor. The tumor is then defined as a cancer.
Yes.
So when we hear cancer diagnosis, we say, "Oh, that's just a hard fibroid. Let's get rid of that." When you start to think about things like that, it makes it easier for our bodies to now accept the healing versus holding on to the illness. And I think I went off the question a little bit, but go ahead.
No, I was just saying you're explaining how we manifest things in our own body. So you're
Yes.
actually right on the question. So many, many years ago, I had a lump on my breast. And Mel and my mother were adamant that I was not going to get it cut out. That they were going to help me and it was going to go away. Long story short, it's gone. My doctor told me it wasn't possible. But when I came to Melanie with it, the first thing she said to me is, we're not claiming that. And I was like,
Yes.
but she was like, okay, we will talk about it, but we're not claiming it. Environment, there are things that come along with the environment. Like I noticed that my hair has changed, my skin
Yes.
has changed, my nails has changed. You have something in here, and I don't remember where I saw it, but it talked about releasing heavy metals.
Right.
Cleansing.
So before we get into just the releasing of heavy metals, let's talk about environment.
Okay.
So our cells respond to our environment, right? So the work that we do, we don't focus on blood work because blood work usually gives a diagnosis. We focus on the person from a cellular level and we help them identify that your environment is what causes your cells to respond a certain way. And if you change your environment, whether it's the mental environment or the physical environment, your cells will respond to that and create new cells that then says, I can, it's almost like where we are now in our lives, not in California, inhaling a lot of those toxins. We're actually inhaling an oxygen that is able to communicate with our cells and say, okay, no more oxidative stress. So now our blood responds differently, and then our bodies respond differently.
Okay, so you said no more oxidative stress. I want to make sure I understand that. So cancer can't live in an oxidized body, right?
Cancer can't live in a healed mind,
Ooh.
which then says that the body, so when we have a lot of oxidative stress, it goes into our blood and that can be cancerous, right? So when we relieve the oxidative stress or any type of stress, the body then starts to heal itself naturally. Does that make sense?
Yeah, but you just blew my mind. So I'm like over here processing. Because one of the things that I found out from having your book is you do a whole alkaline education.
Yes.
Can you tell me how that falls in?
Well, so we have people who are on two extremes, right? One extreme is I'm only going to eat alkaline foods, and the other extreme is I eat too many acidic foods, and it's hard for the alkaline foods to even address what's going on inside of my body, right? But what we want people to realize is that there is a balance, right? So if we have a very acidic environment, meaning that we're inhaling a lot of chemicals, then we need a very alkaline livid, right? We call it a livid instead of a diet, right? Because the first three letters is DIE, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So if we eat foods to address our living,
Mm-hmm.
instead of eating foods to address how we will transition out of this space,
I like that.
yeah. So the alkaline foods could help push out the acidic things in our body. For example, eggs are very acidic. Chicken is very acidic. But if you have a really high alkaline body, you need the acidity from those foods in order to make sure that your body is in balance.
Wow. So it's not good to go one way or the other. You kind of got to just stay in the middle.
Right. Because too, the outside of our body needs more acidity. That's why our skin and hair care products are made with a pH balance of a 5.5, which is more acid. But the inside of our bodies need the alkaline. So we feed the alkaline on the inside and then allow the acidity to wash away the bacteria that isn't serving us. So the one thing I love about the lemon is that lemon is acid on the outside of your body, but once it hits the inside of your body, it becomes alkaline. So you get the best of both worlds.
While we're talking about products, I just want to bring up one of your products is my favorite. I didn't mention Melanie is also the founder of Subtleties Skin Products, your sage spray.
Yes. So let me show you the new ones.
I was gonna say see.
We revamped for the new year.
Your sage spray does wonders with bringing peace and harmony into your home. It can control a little child's temper tantrums. Couldn't even get it out. My kid didn't do that. So, but I have watched Melanie lean over and spray somebody's child and say, "Calm down, baby." And then all of a sudden the kid is like,
yes.
I done called her magical Mel for years, but when I use this as a detangle on my child's hair,
Yes.
Can you like explain to us? Okay, I'm not supposed to hold. I got the old bomb. There's a new one.
So I'll hold this one up for you.
Okay, so can you tell us about the sage spray, how you founded it, and all the things that it can do for you?
Well, you were a part of this as well. So you used to say, I got these dry patches in my head. Well, I got to get rid of them, because what a lot of people don't know is that whenever we use expensive products on your hair, your hair would not perform well.
Yeah, no.
So we had to create a product for Cherie's hair to perform to keep us from using cheap products, because her hair was like, yeah, I want that Cherie shampoo from the dollar store, right?
Which literally I used for years.
And so I said, well, you know what? No, we're gonna create something, that's gonna work. So the sage spray is specifically formulated for people who are experiencing hair loss and dry scalp. So it was to remove the mucus from the scalp. But when you think about it, we were using to create it was the same thing we would use when we burn sage to rid the space of energies, or to identify what energy is in the space, right? So we mixed the sage, and then we added peppermint and rosemary essential oils, because that helps to calm and relieve the scalp. And I noticed that when so I did an experiment where I put a glass of water on my workstation, and I knew that I had a lot of energies coming in on certain days. So I would test the water to see what the water looked like at the end of the day. And I realized that I can have one client with crazy energy, and that water would stay inside the whole time. It would have sticks and all types of dirt and particles in it. But I can have a really calm day with people, and then that water would not change. It would look like it did, like you can drink it from the morning time, right?
Wow.
And so with that, I started realizing that the body is made of so much water. And so how could I regulate the conversation in the salon space, right? How can I say, okay, we're going to bring balance to this conversation? And so the sage, when I would spray the sage spray, it would identify the energies. It would say, okay, this will calm the person's body and it will calm their scalp. And guess what? What's the closest thing to God and the brain? The scalp.
The scalp. Yeah. And
so we started addressing
right here and right here. She's saying it nicely, Dries. I had dandruff, y'all, really bad. But I don't have it anymore.
So it balances the pH in the skin and the hair. And I like to say it balances the pH in your energy as well.
And it also, people always ask me, I'm going to spray it on myself. People always ask me, why is my skin clear? What products do I use on my skin? And I always say, it comes from the inside and out, but I don't use moisturizer. After I wash my face every day, I do use the sage spray.
You know, I just laughed because I remember that time you were stuck in traffic and it was really hot and you got thirsty.
I squirted it in my mouth
And then read the bottom where it said, do not use orally.
and then panicked.
So I'm glad you mentioned that too, because one of the things that we try to make sure that we do is use products that you can put on the inside of the body as well as outside of the body. So we don't feel like you should have to shampoo your hair or, put a butter on your skin that you couldn't use orally. Now, by the time we put it in a formula, we don't recommend that you ingest it, but we do use products that you can ingest to create the products.
And it did not hurt me. She told me not, she said, don't do it again. But it's not going to hurt.
Because ultimately it's a tea. It's just that if you can imagine your tea sitting out for a long period of time, you don't want to drink it.
Did you do that water experiment with me?
I did it on a regular basis because let me just be blunt. I had a lot of stripper clients at one point, right? And I was so naive and nobody told me that these women were strippers, but it got to the point where I got tired of getting paid in these $1 bills. And then I remember Cherie and my mom sitting in the living room, and my mama we were talking about making money for some type of reason. And my mama said, look, y'all, all money ain't good money.
Ain't good.
And so I had to start to address my spirit and say, why am I attracting this? And so putting that water out there, I don't even know where I came up with the idea, but now I know that there have been experiments done in multiple arenas, like Dr. Emoto, who literally test the water under the microscope to see what the energy is like after giving it light or saying positive things to the water and then saying negative things to the water and seeing how it crystallizes.
I remember where that conversation came from with your mom. And it was about
me.
Family Matters had ended, right? And I needed a job. And it was the first time I was introduced to the casting couch. And I came in the house upset because I couldn't believe they tried me like that. And I know exactly which job it is. I'm not going to say which job it was, but it was a producer from a job and you were doing my hair before that. And so, no, I didn't do what they wanted me to do. The producer wanted me to do, but I sat down and we had a family conversation.
Yes.
Yeah.
See the backstories.
Right?
Man, the backstories.
And I made it to your house before I made it home. So when your mama opened the door, I needed to talk.
Mm-hmm.
And she was
my mama don't play when it comes to her girls.
And yes. I had a moment where I didn't know if I wanted to do this. I didn't know if I wanted to do the industry stuff anymore, if this is what it was going to be.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we had that whole conversation.
Yeah. My mind is going to different moments. Like I remember to be nice, there were certain projects that you would stay on just long enough for me to get on as the stylist.
I remember.
And then you would, because yeah.
Yeah, and then I would leave. So speaking of one of those projects, we were talking about teas, right? We had an unruly actress on a project that I had quit, but sorry, I left Melanie there.
It was all good.
Nobody could handle her. Mel went this tea. I said I wasn't going to stare name. I said it on purpose. Melanie went and made this tea, and it totally changed the aura of the day.
Yeah.
You saved the day.
Yeah, I remember she walked on set because what they were trying to do, and she had the right to be upset in this moment. They were trying to put a stand-in, and she said, no, I can do all of my own work. I don't need you to do a stand-in. But they tried to do it behind her back. So we walked on set and she looked and she was just like, is that supposed to be me? And so she got upset. She was just like, no, I want to do my own. And so they kind of like, kind of pushed her away. So we went back to the trailer. We gave her tea, right? And then she walked back on the set and she looked at the director and said, paint me yellow and call me the sun. I'm ready. And she did all of those scenes that they tried to fill in with someone else without incident. And they were like, oh my God, what just happened?
So I was off of the project at this time because I had quit and I was producing another project. And I'll never forget, I took the phone call and Gregory, my boss, was standing there and they said, we don't know what Melanie did to her, but she came out of the trailer a whole new person. Please. And thank you for giving her to us, but please make sure you keep her in the Rolodex because we're going to need her again.
So now I know why I got a raise on that project.
I love it. And you guys, Melanie has been behind the scenes on so many movies that you guys have watched. She's even in I Do, I Did.
Right. Yes.
And
as the hairstylist.
As a hairstylist, because she was doing our hair.
Yes.
I love it. So can I ask you a question? You have transitioned. You no longer are doing hair and you're not doing a lot of set work and stuff like you used to. I'm not saying that she won't anymore. I'm just saying that right now you're not doing that. What made you kind of transition in a different direction?
Well, I think that one, the pregnancy. Identifying that we weren't as young as the average woman who was getting pregnant. And then also knowing that as a hairstylist, we don't kick our feet up enough so that our hearts could get enough blood circulating to it. So a lot of pregnancies have, after a woman would give birth to a child, she could easily get blood clots in her legs that could stop the blood from flowing to her heart. So consciously it was, okay, let me make sure, because for us, they tell us that we need bed rest because of the age, but when they realize how active you are, they're like, oh well, maybe not so much. So I had to identify that I am of African descent and my body could handle certain things, but there were limits. We always have to be mindful of what comes first, and in that moment it was the child comes first, making sure that she's healthy, and then creating a healthy environment around for her. So that transition happened, but I like to use the term diversify effortlessly. So what we had done was we had opened up a community center. Inside of the community center, we had a salon. Then we also had the tea bar, and then we had the wine bar. And then we had the performance gallery, right? So with that, it was really just a slow transition to, kind of pulling away from being the hairstylist in the community. And actually, I started doing more set work first. And then it almost like the universe answers whatever your biggest thought is, right? So I was wondering, do I want to, like, at 50, at 60, be the go-to hairstylist? And then I was like, well, not so much. So then we started manufacturing the hair and skincare products using the teas from the tea bar. And then it kind of created a nice little evolution to where being on set more slows down your day-to-day clientele. And then you start to refer your clients out to other stylists. And then you want to ask yourself, do I want this client to come back or not?
I am so slow. So why you just said that you were using the teas to make the product, I get it. Subtle teas.
Yes. It's spelled the way it's spelled because it's paying homage to Queen Tea, who when they dug up her remains, they found locks of her hair with her name engraved in them. So she was using these methods way long before this world was even thought of being born.
Wow. I literally just got it when you said it. And this is something that I've had and have been using for at least 15 years. Mel, yes. Let's talk about locks and the hair care products really quick, and then we're going to come back to the book, okay? People always ask me, can I use wild cherry on my locks? I'm like, you need to see the lady who makes the products.
I keep telling you, you're the co-founder. We sat down and had a conversation about this.
So Mel's so cute because obviously she's the founder of Wild Cherry, but she is though, because she was using it in her head, and I didn't know what she was using. I just knew that it smelled good.
So yes, the wild cherry could be used on every type of hair. A lot of people don't realize that locks need conditioning too. So if you wonder, like, my locks are very pliable and you can do whatever you want with them, they're not stiff.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the reasons is because we keep them conditioned. And then if you don't want to be responsible for washing that conditioner out, then the sage spray is perfect because it creates a pH balance in the hair that allows it to still be pliable.
Amazing. And men always ask me, well, when are you going to make a product for men? And I said, when didn't we? Nobody said these products are just for women. A lot of men
It's the
love the
scent.
serum.
If we take the cherry out of the product, you have a male product.
Oh.
So we actually manufacture for a beard line right now as well. And she actually was like, she actually came up with the idea from using the wild cherry on her clients. And she is a celebrity stylist as well. She works on a lot of projects, and I wish I can call those things out, but I'm not sure if that would be a conflict of interest for the companies that she's working for. But she started working on one very popular movie, and when I say that the beard line really started to take off, now she has all of these beauty supply stores and everything that wants to carry it because it's an all natural product.
I was gonna say, because men dig the wild cherry serum.
Mm-hmm.
What is it about the
Yeah.
serum that is in barbershops? Men use it on their clippers. Why does
Mm-hmm.
that product draw to men more than others?
Because it's the wild cherry bark that we soak the oils in. It has a anti-inflammatory principle. It's the same thing that they use for a cough. So you have cough syrup, you're getting that wild cherry bark in it. So a lot of times people don't realize that with the sweet almond oil and the wild cherry together, you're getting double of the anti-inflammatory, antibacterial, and antiviral principles of those things.
Is that why it also works for people who have eczema?
Absolutely. Because think about it, anti-inflammatory, antiviral, and there's an antimicrobial aspect to it as well.
What does that mean for the lame brains who don't know what
To Microbes are those little particles of bacteria that we can't see.
Mhm.
And those things cause fungus and like spores to grow.
Okay.
So you have to, with a lot of products that use water, you have to have a microbial test done, and it costs a tremendous amount of money. So a lot of companies try not to do it, but you have to do it in order to make sure that it's safe for the topical use for other people.
Well, so it's kind of like cleanses.
Yes, but yes, let's just say yes. To avoid getting too technical, yes, because it's water based.
Okay, so I want to go back to the book. Autoimmune disorders, you talked about anti-inflammatory, right? And we always talk about anti-inflammatory. We know it comes in creams. We know it's topical, but what about the internal?
So when it comes to autoimmune disorders,
Mhm.
what I'm about to say is controversial in the medical industry, but in the holistic care industry, it's not controversial at all, right? When we talk about autoimmune disorders and we talk about the inflammation that comes with that, what we're talking about is yeast and candida.
Mhm.
So we have to get rid of the yeast and the candida in our bodies because when our bodies have inflammation, it's our body's way of saying, I work, I'm doing for you, and I'm protecting you. So when we see that show up, we should say, thank you, body, for showing me that you work. Okay, so now what do I need to do to rid the unnecessary aspect of it? And so when we blow our nose and we get all of that mucus and that inflammation
Mhm.
out, basically it's our way of saying, the body's way of saying, okay, I'm releasing the part that I don't need. Some people have gone so far to they've released so much of the inflammation in their bodies that it became harmful. So they might get achy joints. We have one client that has this cough that is so bad, but she won't listen when we say no more ginger, no more turmeric, no more this, for just 90 days, just to give your body a chance to reset, to get some of the inflammation in there to protect you from the cough.
Wow. Now, Melanie gives us tips, you guys. I'm going back to the book. If you are joining in late, if you skipped, if this is like a promo and you didn't get it, we are talking about In Your Kitchen with Melanie. You were talking about helping everything from arthritis to bad breath.
Yeah.
I know some people who need this book, whether it's your knees or your mouth. This book is really
Right. Just think, there's one essential oil that can help with both of those. Well,
really.
that's two.
Well, don't tell them what
Lavender
it
and
is.
peppermint.
I was gonna say, don't tell them what it is. Let them buy the book.
Well, they can have that tip because they're not in combination in the book.
Okay, well, we'll say it again then. We'll let them.
So for arthritis, lavender essential oil, if you rub that on the ache, then you start to allow the principles of the lavender to go in and do its work, right? Mm-hmm. And then peppermint also. Peppermint, usually if you have bad breath, it's something going on in your gut. And what happens when we drink peppermint tea or we eat a piece of gum? Our gut starts to calm down and things like that. So there you have it.
Look, I'm telling y'all, In the Kitchen with Melanie for the Amateur Herbalist. I think I know something now.
So can I address the amateur herbalist?
Yes.
Because a lot of people think that this is a cookbook, right? But the reason why I address it as for the amateur herbalist is because one of the things that really makes me laugh hysterically is when a client comes to me and says, I have every tea in the world because I went on YouTube and I diagnosed myself and I got all of these teas. And so I call them amateur herbalists because the word amateur means for the love of, right? So whether you're a master herbalist or someone new at this, if you love the art of combining the herbs, then you're still an amateur as well. So that's why we call it for the amateur herbalist. So we threw a few recipes in the book just to kind of show people how to utilize some of these herbs in their regular everyday food.
Okay, and you made the regular everyday food healthy. So like, right. You know, she got macaroni and cheese in here, but it's vegan style. I want to try this nut meat.
Yeah.
Because when I looked at this nut meat, I was like, wow, that makes so much sense. And then I am trying to back off my dairy because I have a dairy issue. But my dairy comes in sour cream. Yes. You taught me. So
I had to learn that because sour cream, oh, that was one of those things. A lot of people wonder why they can't get rid of their cottage cheese on their thighs. And it's because of the dairy, you know, or they love cheese. And I was like, no, I have to find another alternative.
So what makes me really excited about it is you get a lot of vegan things, or you buy them from the store already packaged, and they're not healthy. Just because it's vegan doesn't mean healthy. But I put that on our Taco Tuesday, and nobody in the house noticed.
Yeah, you know, we call that fake food, or we call it junk food for people who like, you know, instead of going out to get you a regular beef burger and you get a veggie burger, it's still junk food, but at least you're getting a little bit more vegetables in there.
Right. That sour cream, you guys, is bomb. So make sure you check out. Yes. There is a small recipe section. There's a lot of good stuff in there. I have to say, Melanie, my daughter's pediatrician told me that she had eczema when she hit 1, and I had given her cow's milk. Mel came over and was like, you're not giving her this. This is what we're going to do. And you taught me how to make almond milk.
Right.
Do you remember that?
Yes, I remember that vividly because too, a lot of people out there, believe it or not, Cherie, that are just like, oh no, I can't eat nuts. It's the way it sits on my stomach. But people don't realize that there's a lot of enzymes in nuts, but when you soak them, you soak out the bad enzymes and then your body can digest the other part of it. And so, yeah, we made, almond milk that day, and then we because you had started actually using almond milk, but then you were smart enough to read the ingredients and you were like, Mel, did you know that the almond milk has traces of dairy in it? And I was like, what? And I was like, no, we got to do something different.
But Melanie didn't just start from the inside. She made her milk, she made her some body wash, which
Yes.
Melanie just decided 2 weeks ago that we are going to bottle and we're going to start
Yes.
selling it 2023 because
Yes.
I was using Johnson and Johnson's and Mel was like, "You're not doing that."
You know, I say our ingredients for our product line, Cherie, it's like Mexican food. Like if you look at the ingredients in Mexican food, it's the same 5 things prepared all different ways. So the difference between us and them is that we formulate and they have a recipe.
That is
So
true.
you know, so the difference between a recipe and a formula is that formulas are done in grams. Recipes are done in scoops and spoons and guesses.
Absolutely. And I have to say that once Melanie kind of took over what was going inside my daughter and on top of my daughter, her pediatrician has never mentioned eczema again.
Yay.
So thank you. Well, I've kept you so long. Before I let you go, I need
Mhm.
I need for you to tell me that you'll come back because we need to talk about this.
Absolutely.
But not only do we need to talk about this, we need to talk about homeschooling because
Yes.
I think it's amazing that both of us have children that are 6 months apart and they're both
Yes.
homeschooled, but there is no life without love and rhythm, right? And
Right.
we birthed both.
Right.
Both of our girls are also synonymous sisters and they're
Yes.
authors. So please, I had to fight my daughter to borrow this book because she didn't want me to take it out of her little library. But hair formation is an affirmation for many different types of hair textures, and it's written by my niece, Love Luja. So
Yes.
please make sure you check out her little book. Everybody always hears me talk about Cucumbers Are Delicious, which is my daughter Rhythm. We hid our daughters for a very long time, but they coming out. And this is my
Yes.
beautiful niece.
Yes, they chose this life to come and share. And so I have a funny story about Rhythm's book. When we before we started doing extreme homeschooling, we had done online schooling, right? And so one of the projects was dress like your favorite character day. And so Love took Rhythm's book, dressed like the character on her book, and then that was her favorite book character day
Oh,
costume.
so cute. So just so you guys know, not only are we synonymous sisters, but our girls are synonymous sisters. And I love it. There's no life without love and rhythm. We both them
Right.
birth. It wasn't planned that way.
No. They named themselves. We just, you know, we remember we both said we're not going to tell each other what these names are. And then it got to the point where both of them were in the womb talking to each other like, oh, they going to talk about this.
Yes. And I kept saying, I knew I was pregnant because there was a rhythm in my belly. And I had never had a rhythm in my belly.
Right.
You want to tell them?
Yes, it was every time, because we didn't necessarily have a name yet. Every time my husband would say, "Hi, love, hi, my love," she would create this rhythm in my belly. And we was like, wait a minute, I think that she's responding to that because that's what she likes to be called. That's her name. So basically, yeah, she named herself.
I love it. I love it. And I love you.
But you know, Cherie, one thing that's probably important to address too is that for both of us, we were practically, although the pregnancy was 9 months, both of us were pregnant for about a year.
Well, yes.
Because we had our, situation with miscarrying right before we were pregnant with our daughters.
Yes.
And I think that that's important for the what you were addressing earlier about getting our bodies right and prepared for childbirth.
That's right, because I had a miscarriage in June and I got pregnant again late October, early November.
And I had a miscarriage in December or January, like right at the turn, and then got pregnant again in February.
Amazing. That's right. Mel got my body right.
And And it was your mom that helped me through that moment, because remember the first pregnancy, the heartbeat, they couldn't identify a heartbeat. And she said, well, I never had a heartbeat with Cherie. She said, so your baby's going to be fine.
She did.
Yeah,
I remember
she said
that.
Cherie never had a heartbeat. The doctor kept telling me that I was not going to have this baby. And she said Cherie went the whole 9 months. It came out with the most vibrant heart.
I hear. Yeah. Not only that, wait, I can't let you go yet. We have a few projects that have just been sitting on my laptop. I really need to get them out.
Yes. So we used to spend every Thanksgiving together, and oddly enough, that's my daughter was born on Thanksgiving. But when we would get together, it would always be, we would spend the whole night just talking. And I forgot what we were doing, but there was something inappropriate about what a man was saying to a woman when she was pregnant. And so Cherie and I just started writing this list. And she would always have the pen and paper with her. I'm the poet, but she is the writer, right? So she would have this pen and paper. She would just pull off from the side of her bed, and she's like, let's write some of these things down. And then she found it years later and said, you know what? Why we never made this into a book?
Yes. And so it's all together. We got the cover. Not only did we make that list, but we also made another list.
Wait, so the title of the first book is 99 Things Never to Say to a Pregnant Woman.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And then the other one is 49 Things Never to Say
to a Woman Over 40.
Oh, that's what it is, a woman over. Because I was like, where does this man come in?
Because it was once we hit 40, all of a sudden people started labeling us as cougars. And young men were walking up saying the dumbest things to us that I think they thought were compliments.
Right.
But they were total turn-ons.
So what you all have to know about Cherie and I, we balance each other out because we're polar opposites, right? So Cherie says things in a very aggressive way. I say them in a mild way. So when I say it too mild, Cherie's like, that's not giving enough information. You need to let them know that this is what we're talking about. And so I might say, could you reword that? Cherie might say, shut the F up and let's do this. Say what you really mean, you know?
So when I'm doing business and I need to know how to say something nice, you guys now know who I call.
And when I'm doing business and I need to say something a little bit more aggressively, you know exactly who I call. Thank you so much, Mel. I love you. I love you. I love you.
I love you too. Yes.
I appreciate
and to be continued. We can do as many of these as we need to.
I think we need to do many. I think our minis need to do one where they interview each other.
Yes.
And
Absolutely.
I think that'll be so much fun. But I would love to get you and O back because
Yes.
I am open about my relationship. Well, I'm open about my life because I think that somebody out there will learn from it.
Mm-hmm.
I took the workshop. I actually went and got counseling by O'Shea Luja, who is her husband. And Melanie wasn't even present.
Yep. You were waiting for me to show up.
And she wasn't coming.
And we did an interview. We did an interview afterwards. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So I would really like to talk more about this because I think that
Absolutely.
it's vital for anybody who experiences love, loss, and life. Really.
Yeah.
Thank you, Boo Boo.
Thank you.
Did I miss
I
anything?
appreciate you so much.
Cherie, heard across the world. Welcome to Cherie's world. Heard across the world. Welcome to Cherie's world. Representing for every girl. Welcome to Cherie's world. Representing for every girl. Welcome to Cherie's world.